Hello. This session is on levels of testing, where this topic was continued with the previous as fundamentals of testing. So we covered the outline of these topics earlier in the previous session. And just a recap on the topics. Introduction, importance of testing in SDLC, testing life cycle, testing planning. Types of testing. So this session would be on the levels of testing. So before this, you can go through the previous recording to better understand this topic. But then also I'll try to make it simple, and just to recap that unit testing is about if suppose a project has modules. If there are 3 modules, so each module would be tested individually and not as a program, but as a module. So suppose a project has 3 modules, so there will be 3 unit test cases. Now, every module can have, say, a couple of programs. Say module 1 or unit 1 has 10 programs. So each program will be tested individually, and that is called white box testing. So the example I had given earlier was that if you want to add 2 numbers, this is one program, right? So in that program, if there is a syntactical error, that has to be decoded by the developer. And if suppose the program compiles successfully, but in the outcome, suppose I put 2 numbers on runtime, say 5 and 7, and you get the answer 10. So that's a wrong answer. The logic is wrong somewhere. So you need to again go check the logic and recompile. So this comes under white box testing. Okay, so I'll repeat. White box testing includes the syntactical as well as the logic of the program. Whereas unit testing is the testing of the entire module. Okay, and they are done by the developers. Both the things are done by the developers. Integration testing. Now there are 3 units in this project, for example. These 3 units now need to integrate. So if suppose there is one is in Java, another is Oracle. Java doesn't understand the syntax of Oracle and vice versa. So you need a driver in between. For example, you have a car, but you do not know how to drive. So you need a driver. Okay. Similarly, you have 2 modules, one in English and one in French. You need to convert each other. So you need a translator in between. Otherwise, there is no use. They don't know each other's language. So to connect and communicate, because ultimately we have converted a single project into 3 modules or units, not 3, just an example I'm giving. Why did we divide it? So that for our convenience sake, because in previous session we discussed that what is the benefit of adding object-oriented concepts in design to improve quality, and why? Because we all know the benefits of modularity. Okay. For example, only one teacher takes all the 5 subjects and one teacher is absent. All 5 subjects, no knowledge for a day. But if one teacher is absent and the subjects is divided into 5 teachers, if one is not well or whatever reason is absent, at least other 4 subjects teachers can compensate that time and they can swap accordingly. So that types. So integration testing. And of course, when you combine unit and integration, then it becomes a system. Now, this all is happening at the developer's side. Just you have to understand that this V model, this all is happening system level design. We are still in the system level design. So this is all happening in the developer's side. Okay, so these testers are also right now under the developer's side. Okay. So you have usability testing, you have functional testing, you have performance testing, and you have security testing. So in system testing, you have all these 4 testings. I'll repeat: usability, functional, performance, and security. आपको नाम से ही समझ में आ जाएगा कि ये किस तरीके के फंक्शंस है. यूजेबिलिटी मतलब आपका यूआई रिलेटेड, जो हमने एमवीसी आर्किटेक्चर पढ़ा है. एमवीसी, V stands for view, and it is related to your UI. So UI UX developers will be involved in that. तो यूजेबिलिटी यूजर एक्सपीरियंस होता है. तो अगर कोई बग आपके UI UX मॉडल में आता है या व्यू MVC आर्किटेक्चर के व्यू कंपोनेंट में आता है तो वो यूजेबिलिटी टेस्टिंग में जाएगा। तो कहने का तात्पर्य ये है कि यूजेबिलिटी टेस्टिंग के अलग आपके ग्रुप हो सकते हैं। इट डिपेंड्स वेदर इट्स अ सॉफ्टवेयर और अ person or the group of people. Functional testing will come under the business logic of the MVC architecture. Those who are attending this session for the first time, if you do not know what MVC architecture is, then probably it will be difficult to relate. So you can go to the description box and find out the lecture on MVC or maybe on the net. Okay, it's a very well-used architectural pattern, which is similar to a 3-tier architecture, but very good for component level design. So when it comes to functional business logic, that is MVC का जो C है ना, C यानी कंट्रोलर होता है MVC में, और उससे रिलेटेड हमारा बिजनेस लॉजिक। तो बिजनेस लॉजिक जो फंक्शनैलिटी है, so that will come under the functional testing. Performance testing, that is a overall system testing. So उसमें देयर आर, ये टेस्टिंग की एक डिफरेंट कैटेगरी है जहां पे आपको पूरे सिस्टम का परफॉर्मेंस थ्रूपुट, देयर आर वेरियस पैरामीटर्स इन परफॉर्मेंस टेस्टिंग. द SDQA engineers have to evaluate those performance testing parameters. And last but not the least in system testing is the security testing. So that parameter should not be avoided because this is a need of the hour. So you need to also see whether you have incorporated proper security parameters to your and validated to your product. So coming with each type of testing, first is usability testing. So during this testing team concentrates on user friendliness. So it's more of a user experience testing. Okay, how does the user feel? How comfortable is the product to use for the beginners? Okay, likewise for the person who is using it for the first time, does he feel to use it for the second time? Those types of parameters. So the parameters are user interface test. You need to see how it is easy to use. Screen should be understandable to operate by end user. Okay, I'll give you these notes. So it will be better that you revise it and see each point again with whatever case study you have in your mind or whatever project you are doing. Then look and feel. Obviously, everybody likes a better and attractive app. It is soothing to your eyes, so you feel like using it. Then speed in the interface, that is very, very important. A project with 10 seconds response time and a 10-minute response time with a similar output. Okay, so speed would be definitely one of the tasks to validate a quality and better user experience. And the manual support test, that is context sensitive of user manual. So whatever, if there is something new for the user, is not able to use it, so you should have a manual attached as a support system. Okay, the user should not get lost while using your system, right? So that is why the manual support test is very, very much essential to be included in your system testing model. That is basically, it understands what is the test plan, that is the flow from first, then back to the plan, and then how many test cases, the functionalities, all the summary report, everything is added in the manual sports test system. So second type of system testing, I'll just go back so that you're understanding. We are in the system testing module, and the second category is functional testing. Okay, so these 4 types of testing we are discussing. So after usability, we have functional. So the process of checking the behavior of the application. Okay, so you can note down these points later. You can recheck this video again or maybe the notes. But what example we gave was add 2 numbers. If the addition is not proper coming as an output, somewhere there is a problem in the logic and the functionality to which those associated classes are representing as a module. So you need to check that where it is going wrong. So functionality testing. Next is the performance testing. So these are the 4 parameters which need to be included. First is load testing. So also known as scalability testing. During this test engineers execute application build under customer expected configuration and load to estimate performance. Okay, so what is scalability? For example, your server has a capacity to handle, say, 10,000 machines. Okay, and if you try to add more 100 machines, so it is not able to take that much load. That is called scalability. Scalability means addition of the either hardware, software, functionality, resources, whatever, addition. So scalability. So if suppose if you are testing the performance of a server, so you should first know what is the capacity of the server. If the capacity of a server is 10,000, and if it is not even taking the load of, say, 900, you need to escalate that report. But if it is 10,000 and you are trying to test it on more 100, and if it is not taking it, then probably the test case would say that it is exceeding the limit. Okay. For example, you have a lift. A lift has only capacity of, say, 8 to 10 members. And of course, the weight is also attached. So if you try to add one member, say there are only 6 people, but your lift capacity is 8. So you say that you can add one member, but if the weight criteria is there, it will cross the scalability margin. Okay. So you should first know those metrics of your product. Then only you can do all the performance testing. Unless and until you do not know the requirements properly defined, what are you going to test it? So if you say that your program is to add two numbers and you try to evaluate two strings, then obviously the outcome is not going to get the way you are expecting it. So first initial phase is that you should know all the requirements before you initiate even the testing plan. That was our testing cycle. If you remember, if we go back to the testing life cycle, testing life cycle is system study. So the system study is you have to understand the requirements. Is your requirement input in the form of text, image, video, what? So this all comes under the system study and requirements. Okay. So next parameter performance is stress testing. So during this testing, the test engineers estimates the peak load to find out the maximum number of users for execution of the out application user customer expected configuration to estimate peak load. Okay, so now you probably may understand what is load testing and what is stress testing. So if suppose your capacity is 10,000 and your product is able to extend 900, that means that product has a 900 excess stress level performance parameter. Okay. Then next is your data volume testing. Testing team products this test to find the maximum limit of data volume of your application. So how many data can be handled? Now it all depends upon what product you are using. Okay, so if the same example, okay, so to understand this lift example, आपका लिफ्ट ऊपर प्रॉपरली चढ़ रहा है क्या? अगर आपने 1 दबाया है तो वो 1 पे चढ़ रहा है क्या? वो लोड ले रहा है क्या जितना वहां पे मेंशन्ड है? यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. सो दैट इज योर लोड टेस्टिंग. ठीक है, लिफ्ट चालू है क्या, पहले तो ये बात है. और फिर वहां पे वो उतना जो मेंशन्ड है क्या उसकी उतनी लेवल है क्या? स्ट्रेस मतलब सपोज यहाँ पे डेटा वॉल्यूम पे जाते हैं, अगर वहां पे 10 लोग हैं और वेट भी उतना है, सपोज वॉट एवर XYZ kg, अगर कोई एक्सीड होता है तो वहां पे सायरन बजता है. ठीक है, लेकिन क्या वो एक्स्ट्रा लोड होने के बाद लिफ्ट नीचे एकदम दब के नीचे जुप से चली जाती है क्या? नहीं, वो वहीं पे रुकती है. एक बजर आता है, इसका मतलब है कि वो स्टार्ट नहीं होती है, स्टॉप ही रहती है. लेकिन अगर उसने स्ट्रेस हैंडल नहीं किया, एक एक्स्ट्रा वजन चला गया, तो हो सकता है कि वो स्ट्रेस हैंडल ना करे और वो नीचे दब जाए. ऐसा नहीं होता है. दैट इज योर स्ट्रेस टेस्टिंग. अब प्रैक्टिकली ऐसा होना भी नहीं चाहिए. आई होप यू हैव अंडरस्टूड how these 3 parameters can be differentiated with lift. Yes?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Yes, okay. So going through security testing. Testing how well the system protects against unauthorized internal or external access. Willful damage, etc. may require sophisticated testing. अभी लिफ्ट का ही एग्जांपल हम लेते हैं, जिसने लिफ्ट यहाँ अगर कोई जगह पे इंस्टॉल की होगी, ठीक है, सो दैट पर्सन ऑल्सो हैज टू बी ऑथेंटिकेटेड. उसका वो कंपनी या सोसाइटी में उसका बायोमेट्रिक सब कुछ ले लिया जाएगा, सब कुछ, कि दिस इज द पर्सन हु इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर दिस लिफ्ट. अगर कोई हैपहैजर्ड हुआ तो वो कंपनी डॉक्यूमेंट साइन करती है दैट वी टेक दैट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. तो वो कभी देती है जब उनका प्रोडक्ट एकदम टेस्टेड है, तो अदरवाइज अ केस कैन बी फाइल्ड अगेंस्ट देम. और अगर सपोज ये सब प्रॉपर प्रोसीजर हो गया, उसके बाद में सपोज कल को द पर्सन कम्स एंड ट्राइज टू डैमेज द लिफ्ट, सो दैट अगर उसका कोई एनिमी है, वो जब लिफ्ट के अंदर बैठे तो वो लिफ्ट एकदम डैमेज हो जाए या कोई फायर आ जाए या दैट पर्सन, you understand what I'm trying to say, that this is also one of the security purpose. So there is a lot of things which you need to authorize, validate, maintain also, because when a company is coming for maintenance of your lift, वो आपकी कंपनी का बंदा है क्या, ये भी आपको वो नेक्स्ट टाइम स्क्रूटनी करनी पड़ेगी. उसका भी एक कंपनी प्रोसीजर रहता है, क्योंकि आपने उस कंपनी के बंदे को बोल दिया कि अभी ये प्रॉब्लम है, कंपनी एक बंदे को भेजेगी, वो बंदा ऑथराइज है क्या, वो भी आपको देखना पड़ेगा. सो दीज ऑल थिंग्स विच आर मेंशन्ड अपार्ट फ्रॉम व्हाट आई डिस्कस्ड एज अ लिफ्ट एग्जांपल नीड्स टू बी कंसिडर्ड इन सिक्योरिटी टेस्टिंग. ये तो लिफ्ट का एग्जांपल है, लेकिन आपने अगर कोई सोशल मीडिया ऐप किसी को बना के दिया है, आप वो पर्सन जिसके लिए आपने सोशल मीडिया ऐप बनाया, उसकी सिक्योरिटी आपने मेंटेन करी है क्या. पता चला कि आपने उसको एडमिन और पासवर्ड का डिटेल्स दिया, लेकिन आपने ऐप में ऐसा किया कि वो एडमिन एंड पासवर्ड सभी को डिस्प्ले हो रहा है कुछ टाइम बाद. दिस इज नॉट सिक्योर, राइट. एंड देन दैट पर्सन इज नॉट एबल टू इवन डिलीट द इमेजेस, क्योंकि हो सकता है दैट पर्सन फाइंड्स कि आज मुझे ये इमेज नहीं दिखानी है, because this is an outdated facility which now is there. बट इफ अगर आप उसको डिलीशन की परमिशन नहीं दोगे और कल को उसको कोई बोलेगा कि नहीं आपने तो ये अभी भी अपने वेबसाइट पे दिया हुआ है कि आप ये सर्विस देते हो, फिर आप हमें अभी क्यों नहीं दे रहे हो मेंटेनेंस में एंड ऑल दैट. सो दोज ऑल पॉलिसीज कंपनीज नीड टू रीडिफाइन. तो वो सोशल मीडिया ऐप जो आप उस कंपनी के लिए बना के दे रहे हो, सो यू नीड टू गिव देम दोज सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज. आई होप यू अंडरस्टैंड. इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेरी यू प्लीज आस्क. So smoke testing is a non-exhaustive software testing, asserting that the most crucial functions of a program work, but not bothering with the finer details. तो ये मैक्रो लेवल पे टेस्टिंग होती है, माइक्रो लेवल पे नहीं होती है. स्मोक मतलब धुआं, धुआं बाहर है वो सारा, ठीक है, अंदर नहीं है. जब भी व्हेन पर्सन स्मोक्स तो धुआं बाहर निकलता, तो इट्स मोर ऑफ अ मैक्रो लेवल. सो द मीनिंग इज दैट फंक्शनैलिटी ऊपर से चेक की जा रही है एज एन ओवरऑल, इंटरनली नॉट. सो हमने एक पिछले लेक्चर में वी हैड डिस्कस्ड अबाउट व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन डिफेक्ट एंड एन एरर. सो डिफेक्ट इज एट द डेवलपर साइड, एरर इज एट द क्लाइंट साइड. तो क्लाइंट में आपको ऊपर फंक्शनैलिटी का एरर पता चलेगा, फंक्शनल डिफेक्ट, फंक्शनल एरर तो डेवलपर को ही समझ में आएगा. So that's called smoke testing. So if you are trying to test your system, okay, only at a upper level to find out how does the program works, not at the crucial, only the crucial functions, not the finer details, then that is called smoke testing. The next is your alpha testing. So you can see what is written on the screen. I'll give you a minute. Okay, so very simple. The definitions are already mentioned, that the testing which is done by neither the developers or any of the person who knows about the technical details. Okay, they are person who doesn't know about the application. They are just laymen. Okay, and why that is important? Because if you know all the technical details, probably you will not understand that what problems the layman may face. Okay, but obviously they are under the supervision of the developers because they are still to be deployed. Okay, so there should not be any additions that should be done by mistake also by the alpha testers. I hope this is clear. Can we go to the next?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So acceptance testing we had discussed. It is this acceptance testing here. Can you see on the screen the V model? So this is requirement to the business testing. So finally you have come to the client, nearer to the client, we must say. So if you can read what is on the screen, the goal of the acceptance testing is to verify that the software is ready and can be used by the end user to perform the functions. Okay, so is it ready to deploy? That is acceptance testing. Okay, so if acceptance testing is positive, now it is the deployment starts and the handing over of the product to the customer process is initiated. I hope this is clear. Can we go to the next? So next is beta testing. Okay, so as you can say that this is also before the final release of the software is released to the user. Okay, this beta testing is performed. Now, there should be a question from your side that what is the difference between acceptance testing and beta testing, because it looks the same. Okay, so I'll repeat, this acceptance testing is also the final test action before deploying the software. You can see here. And this is also before the final release of the software. Now, both the definitions look same. What is the difference is acceptance testing is under controlled conditions, whereas beta testing is under no controlled conditions. That is the difference. Where the user is free to do whatever. Okay, अगर वहां पे इंटीजर डालना है, आप इंटीजर डालो, इमेज डालो, कुछ भी करो, बीच में abruptly बंद कर दो, whatever you want, and it can be done by any person. Okay, so that is the difference. Next is the regression testing. Okay, so I'll just repeat again. Alpha testing is before the release, but done under controlled conditions. And beta testing is also before the release, but done under no controlled conditions. Now, regression, we had already discussed this in our previous session. Testing with the intent of determining if bug fixes have been successful and have not created any new problems. Also, this type of testing is done to ensure that no degradation of baseline functionality has occurred. So, if you remember, I'll just go back to that slide where you can relate our previous session. This regression test, it's a part of our testing lifecycle. Okay. So once we understand the entire system, we make a test plan. Okay. And we understand how many test cases we need to design. So we design each of the test case, and each test case formulates a functionality. Then we execute. Execution means we find out a defect. If the defect is there, we execute it. Otherwise, we close the test case and we report that. Okay. We only report the defects, okay, which are closed. And it goes to the regression test. Now, what is this regression test? Every functionality. Now, this defect may cause, after closure, another defect. Because if we try to close one defect, you never know when this goes here. It may cause that input, what you understood. Sorry. Which you understood is closed, may cause error to another test case or another module. So that is why this regression testing comes into picture, where, we need to understand the entire test cases. So each test case output will be gathered, because we will get all the defects from here. And then that pattern machine learning will understand. That pattern will be identified, analyzed, and these reports will be created. Now, after these reports created, when you do the this testing, regression testing, you come to understand whether the test cases which were closed, have they created problem to another test case? So if, or there is any degradation in the quality, if not, then you pass the regression testing. And last but not the least for this session, monkey testing. So monkey testing is testing the application randomly, like hitting keys irregularly, and try to break down the system. And there is no specific test cases and scenarios for monkey testing. ना नाम से ही समझ में आता है मंकी क्या करता है, कहीं पे भी कूदता है जाके, कभी कहीं पे भी हॉप करता है ना. सो टेस्ट केसेस में कैसे, यू हैव अ प्रॉपर टेस्ट प्लान, एमवीसी आर्किटेक्चर में कि यूज केस स्टार्ट हो रहा है, सब घूम घाम के वापस इधर आ गए. तो आपका एक पूरा स्ट्रैटेजी प्लान्ड है, आपका टेस्ट केस में सारा पूरा फ्लो प्लान्ड है, सब कुछ प्लान्ड है. ये जो मंकी टेस्टिंग है ये अनप्लान्ड है. कभी भी कोई भी बटन कहीं से भी क्लिक करना है, कहीं पे भी बंद कर देना है, इट्स रैंडम, कोई भी पेज पे चले जाना है. इससे ये दिखना चाहिए कि वो प्रॉपरली, अगर कुछ हमने गलती से भी कहीं चला गया, आर वी एबल टू नेविगेट बैक टू अवर सिस्टम, या पता चला कि मशीन हैंग हो गई या सिस्टम हैंग हो गया या हम लॉस्ट हो गए, दैट काइंड. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हर वेबसाइट पे आपके पास एक बैक बटन होता है. अगर आप गलती से बैक बटन न जाके ये पीछे वाला बैक एरो करते हो, तो भी वो बैक ही जाना चाहिए. अब ये बैक का क्या मतलब है, ये भी प्रॉपर होना चाहिए. यू अंडरस्टैंड, इट शुड नॉट गो टू द गूगल नाउ. Okay. So that you lost the control of the system only. So that is called monkey testing. Okay, so I hope this topic, levels of testing, which is a subtopic of this session, where we started with actually software testing fundamentals, where this session was exclusively on levels of testing, where we initiated on unit testing and differentiated between white box and unit testing, going ahead with integration testing, then system testing, 4 types of system testing, namely usability, functional, performance, and security. Then additional testing methods we discussed, that is smoke. Okay, it is just about the crucial functions and not about the details. The alpha testing, where it is done by non-developers who is totally layman, doesn't know at all about the application, but of course it is under the supervision of the developers. Acceptance testing is the final test action before you deploy this software, but yes, it is under the controlled conditions. Beta testing is much similar to the acceptance testing, but it is under no controlled conditions. So, but it is following the test plan and the flow. Regression testing is confirming that after you solve any defects, whether those solving the defects and closing the test cases, वो कोई दूसरे डिफेक्ट को तो नहीं पैदा कर रहा है, और कोई क्वालिटी तो डिग्रेड नहीं कर रहा है, ये आपका रिग्रेशन टेस्टिंग में आपको कंफर्म करना है. सो ऑफ कोर्स all these testing you have to study in detail whenever you want to become a SDQA engineer. Okay, software testing analyst, itself is a course and certification. Here we are just trying to take everything in brief so that you have an idea, and if you are interested in this type of career, then you can go towards SDQA certifications. And last but not the least of the day is the monkey testing, where you randomly, pick any page, any functionality, whatever. So that you know that even if you do something by mistake, you can come on the right track to your product or app or a website. So thank you for your patience listening. This is Dr. Ayeshabutalia signing off from this particular session. Have a nice day.